So maybe we'll talk about the war for a little bit, but not in the sense of like negotiations and and Trump's going to end civilization and all that kind of stuff, because you can get that on CNN and you can get that on Fox News. But what you're going to get here is the question of what is a win for the U.S. in the Iran war, also known as Epic Fury. So, like, when it's all said and done, what would you, if you consider it a win, or what do you think the president of the United States would consider a win? Actually, let's go with what you would think it's would consider it a win. And Joe, we're going to start with you, since you had the tech difficulties, so you weren't able to speak at all. We'll kick it off with you. And what do you think? I know that you don't think we should be there at all, so there is no win for you. And you can elaborate on that. What do you think Trump would walk? What's Trump's mission accomplished moment? You could do both of those, so we know where you're going on the first one.
You stole it, you know me way too well, because you knew exactly what I was going to say.
Yes.
So I am glad that you actually asked it two separate ways, because you know how I am about war in general and winners in war. There is not. So as far as like what Trump in his quote unquote mission accomplished kind of line. Frankly, Trump has already said this. He said this like 15 years ago to Obama in a tweet. He said, "Declare victory and get out." I think that would be a win for Trump. Is just declare it. Just say, well, we won, and then get out. Say, oh, we solved it. It's good. We did it, whatever this thing is, and things are better now. We won, and we're done.
Okay. All right, let's go around the horn. Mike, what do you think?
That's completely wrong, and there are actually criteria, and they're important, because if this is done poorly, if we actually saw something like that, we'll be back in this war within 5 to 10 years. So it actually matters that we have to have concrete, real, substantive success. What's victory? The Strait of Hormuz is reopened. The Ayatollah is removed from office, whether either directly by the United States forcing him out or by the Iranian people rising up and deposing him. But the Ayatollah has to be gone. The IRGC have to be gone. There can't be the capability of nuclear weapons being made, and the ballistic missiles research and development must be stopped, must be completely crushed. And if we are very, very lucky, Donald Trump will be bombing the bridges and the power plants, which lead to the industrial zones that make their military capabilities possible, which fuels global terrorism. And yes, because if you take out industrial power plants, you take out industrial bridges, that does bring any current first or second world nation into the 1800s, wipe out their civilization, which is actually what Trump has said, what it actually means. And if we don't go by the fear mongering of the mainstream media, they have a goal in mind. They want everyone to vote Democrat, so they don't mind fear mongering you and lying and misconstruing very clear statements, very clear military objectives. Can we get those targets as a win? Absolutely, because we have a strong president who has a strong will. Will we? That's a different question.
All right. So how about you, John? What's a win for the United States if you think we should be going for the win, or if you maybe side more with Joe's side of it and give us your opinion on what Donald Trump thinks a win would be?
Okay. Well, I think a win would be for the United States that Iran either would have no nuclear capability whatsoever, and the only other option that the U.S. would find a win is if there was, and you could trust it, that a body that we would trust would be able to inspect all the time. But that would be a lot of trust. But removing the weapons of mass destruction would be and they've spoken a lot about that. That might be kind of difficult. But removing the weapons capability would be something that the U.S. would be very comfortable with. And that seems to be the goal of this war. The thing is, can it be achieved just by bombing the country? And that's it. That's what it might come down to, because you might not be able to, get this removed with just bombing the country. That might not be enough.
Yeah.
But we'll see. If Trump is able to pull this off with just bombing the country, he pulls off something, pretty big. But so far he hasn't. And
Right.
Iran has not backed down. But in time, we don't know. But I think that the win for the U.S. would be getting rid of that, the nuclear capability. The U.S. would like a friendly power to be in, but so far, most of the day, the U.S. didn't like him. The Shah, we liked him until, we wondered why he was tear gassing his people. And then for the Ayatollah, he definitely was opposed to the U.S. So we're like 0 for 3 in the people.
No.
That,
hold on.
So it's.
Yeah, go ahead, John.
I'm listening.
That's why I see a win. That's how I see a win. But I don't see either. We like the Shah, but then again, he was oppressive to the people, and the people revolted against him. The U.S. was a very good friend of his, but we gave him all kinds of weapons and stuff. But he didn't get along. And two, we had a mix of some people in Iran who wanted modern development, and a lot of people who wanted a very religious country. And there was a divide between the two. And then the religious took over in their country.
Okay. So, Mike, you had a response to that, but then I got follow-up questions for you. So first respond to John while it's fresh.
The U.S. isn't looking for a friend. We're looking for an end to fanatical, zealot, theocratic rule. In other words, we don't want the terrorists in charge anymore. That's the answer. And literally, Trump has made that very clear. The world has made that very clear because they support us in this. The entire world is supporting in this. They want us to win. They want this to happen. So, and that's one of the key things. We're not trying to build, we're not nation building, we're not trying to make puppets. We're trying to get rid of terrorism, which makes the world more stable, which makes oil prices cheaper, which helps feed more people around the world. There's a lot of positives from this that most people don't understand and aren't thinking about. It not only is this conflict isn't just about Iran, although it is about that and terrorism. It's about China. Every day that we go through the blockade is denying and pushing back the ability of China to use its incredibly large navy to threaten Taiwan, Japan, the Philippines, and South Korea. There is
pause right there for a second, Mike.
Go ahead.
Pause right there for a second. It's a good time to remind people that that China, and I do think this is part of Trump's strategy, China actually gets its oil from three major countries. That's Russia, Venezuela, and Iran. Now, Venezuela is really kind of butting up more towards us now after we took out Maduro. And of course, Iran is on the brink of not being able to supply. Well, right now, they're not supplying oil to China. And on the brink of not being able to ever do it again. Maybe like on the black market, right? And then they have Russia, who has their own issues. So they're in a bit of a trouble. So I do think there's like some 3D chess going on there. So, you can continue. You had more to say about what a win
Slightly.
is like?
Remember, this is part of a long-term plan. And again, mainstream news media doesn't want to talk about it. People like us have to, because the public isn't being informed. Venezuela provided 80% of its oil to China. Iran provided about 50% of its oil to to China. We've cut off Venezuela. They're not getting oil. Those are old numbers. They don't get any more. And awesome. Iran, because of the blockade, the reason why there was a blockade was because Iran was sending oil directly to Pakistan, which sends it to China, and directly to China, which goes to China. And we stopped them because China is using Pakistan to help Iran against us in this war. They love the fact that there's more terrorism as long as it doesn't directly affect China. They love that it targets America. They want us to waste our time, money, and more importantly, political pressure. They want political pressure on Trump. They want the whole thing that Iran is doing right now is they are trying to buy time to make Republicans get afraid of the midterm elections. So, and because of that, they'll put pressure on Trump to back down and keep the Ayatollah in power, keep the IRGC in power, keep global terrorism alive. That's what they're buying time for. And China's helping them to do that. People don't understand the nature of what's actually happening in the geopolitics right now.
Okay, I want to get back to your original. The original part of the discussion was what is the win for the U.S. in the Iran war, epic fury, and you said to keep the strait open, but run by who?
Run by no one. It's open. It's an open waterway.
I like that.
It's the way it's been working.
Thing you said tonight. That's good.
Well, no, that's the way it's always been. It's always been an open waterway. By the way, half of the Strait of Hormuz is controlled and owned and controlled by Oman. Part of the Strait of Hormuz is actually owned by the UAE. There's actually a dividing line. So there's the Iran side, then there's the other side. And Iran is trying to basically control the whole thing, which is an international law violation, but that's another thing altogether. So no, everyone could flout. That's like saying, if you want to go through the Gulf of America, who do you got to pay? No one. You want to go through the Caribbean Sea? No one. You want to go through the Red Sea? No one. You want to go through the Panama Canal? That's something different because that's an artificial man-made construct. Right. And you have the option, go around South America if you don't want to pay it. The Strait of Hormuz, that isn't. That's an entirely different thing.
Okay, Joe, you're up.
I'm sure you guys have seen like the meme of this, but you know how the strait looks like, right? It kind of like it's almost like a V or a U or something.
Yeah.
And you could almost in the meme you just go across the land.
Yeah, they're idiots. They're idiots. Okay, you know what's there. You know what they're trying to dig through. It's a mountain.
I actually don't know. I don't know.
It's a mountain.
I don't know the meme. I don't know.
It's a mountain range. You can't dig through it. It's not possible.
Okay.
But I know the meme, but that's why I'm saying the people, they do that. And this is how we mislead people to try and weaken Trump and put pressure on Republicans to bow down. They're playing a political war because they can't win the physical one. And that meme, whenever it gets circulated, people look at that and go, well, why don't we just do that? It's a mountain range.
Okay, but
can't
my
dig through
point, the meme's point is, I think, is to go around it. Like, okay, just do something else. Like, make it irrelevant, basically.
Oh, I see.
So,
all right, so explain. Wait, hold on. Just so everybody's on the same page about the meme. There's a meme out there that says we don't need the Strait of Hormuz. We could just go around it on land. And Michael, you're saying there's a mountain there, so it's not possible.
Yes, you can't do a Panama.
Okay, all right, great. I didn't know anything about it, so I want to catch up. Catch up with the viewers.
Okay.
Yeah,
go ahead, Joe.
How does Kuwait get their oil out? Because it's the Gulf, and how does Kuwait get any oil out except to get it through other countries to get to the Arabian Sea or something? Because the Gulf is there, and you have to go through the Strait, and that's your only option to get out. So if you do control the Strait, then it blocks all the oil, and you could extort, and you could have like a toll or something like that, and that's not what the world really wants to see. So you do have the Strait there, and you have to keep the Strait open to all countries, which it's been. And, we'll see. Hopefully it'll return to international cooperation, I guess. Stuff like that.
You know what's kind of funny about this, though, is, Michael, you mentioned one of the wins is to open up the Strait, I believe. I'm not sure. Maybe it was John. One of you two.
It was me.
Okay, so it was open before. So a win is just to get back to where we were before we started this thing?
No.
Okay, hold on. That's great question, and it's something that I've been thinking about, and actually kind of brought that up with some family over the weekend. If all this ends up just right back to where we started, where gas goes back to where it was, and the Strait of Hormuz is just running the way it was before, what the heck was the point?
But Charles, mission accomplished.
No, that is a complete misreading of it, and it's an oversimplification. That's completely wrong.
I said it.
Because what we're looking at is, again, the point of this is to remove and destabilize the global leader of international terror that has been seeking to destroy the United States, that has the capability of building ballistic missiles that can take out every major city in Europe right now, which means they are not far away from being able to have ballistic missiles that can reach the United States. That's just about fuel, not about guidance. And they are trying to develop, and they have insisted that they will continue to develop nuclear programs. That was according to the president of Iran over this weekend. So they are a clear and present threat on multiple levels to the United States. This is existential.
Okay.
We are fighting to remove that existential threat.
Hold on. I'm gonna bring John back in. So John, this is one of the major talking points is what the heck are we doing there in the first place? Are we going after a global terrorist and that's it? After 47 years of not saying anything about it whatsoever, nobody said we should go in there and fight Iran for 47 years, and all of a sudden it became a thing. And why does Trump always say, well, gas is going to be so low when this is over, which makes it sound like it kind of is about the gas price as well. So, John, have you gotten a clear idea of what the heck was the goal in the first place?
Okay. To be fair, it was a big issue, a big concern that Iran with nuclear capabilities could harm us. I mean, that's something that the U.S. is trying to avoid. And we did have the deal under Obama, and then that was removed. And then now you do have the option of trying to remove the nuclear threat. And it's kind of hard. Plus, you do have the issue of if you do take out the regime, then what replaces it? You don't know. It could be someone that we get along with great that doesn't create nuclear weapons. We could get a new regime that creates nuclear weapons again, and then 50 years we have this problem again, and we're not all going to be here, except maybe Joe. He's so young. He'll be here 50 years, but I won't be around. So the thing is, sometimes we change these regimes, but it is something that as a country, the threat of nuclear harm, the way Iran's behavior was, the U.S. for safety, what comes next, and we'll have to see. It could be no threat to the U.S. or another country, regime that takes over could be a real danger to us, and then they could. And other countries around the world too, what we have to deal with is we have nuclear weapons. We can use nuclear weapons, and we don't want anybody else to get nuclear weapons at all. And that might be a problem that we have for the future. So I've got no great answer on that, except that we would need to be as safe as possible. But the use of it's just going to the world amount of nuclear weapons if they decide to, and you have international treaties, but they only go so far. So we have to keep as safe as possible, and we'll see how this goes. It's a mystery on what is exactly is going to end up like 6 months, a year from now. We don't know whether Iran will hardly be talked about in America anymore, or whether we can remove the threat or not, and we'll see how it goes.
All right, well, we'll leave it there. Yes, and we'll see how it goes over the next couple of weeks. I'm going to bring it back to the shore.
You see the comment?
I did. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Obama's nuclear deal.
That's all we have. I mean,
it's a joke.
I believe John wasn't commenting on the virility of the deal, just that there wasn't one in place, to point out that we were trying.
It's the reason we're here today. But go on.
Let's move back to the shore. And there's a couple of. I get the feeling you guys want to continue talking about that. You had something to say, Joe? I mean,
Predictions. I want to do a prediction segment after everything we do here. I just because I want to predict something very bold here.
Okay.
Troops on the ground in 6 months.
Okay, what do you think? Troops on the ground, Mike?
Not Americans. The Kurds are already moving in. Saudis will probably move in. Might see Israel with some actions. U.S. will probably have not troops on the ground to take over Iran, but troops coming in for missions, kind of like Delta Force in Venezuela. They come in, they strike, they go back out. You'll probably see that the whole thing will be over by August. This is not going to be long term. China can't afford it.
But August was is more than just a couple of weeks. Trump said in the beginning.
Yeah, but that's the way you actually. That's the proper way. You keep people with high motivation during high risk, and with moments of crisis, you show strong leadership, strong confidence, and then that keeps up morale. Of course, he said that. Everyone says that when they start a conflict or any engagement. If they don't, they're morons and they lose. Of course, they're saying that.
All right. John, what do you think? Oh, so Joe, let's go back. You meant American U.S. boots on the ground, right? Okay. John, what do you think?
Handle it much differently. Remember, Colin with George Herbert Walker Bush went into the Persian Gulf War. You use overwhelming force. You have the support of the American people, and those are the terms that he was saying go in. And you do need surprise sometimes. You do need that where you can't sometimes broadcast what you're going to do. But for the Persian Gulf War, it was actually very, being honest about it, even being a Democrat, it was very well done. And you can't run all the wars like that. But, George Herbert Walker Bush was, I think, the best use of international diplomacy and American foreign policy that I had ever seen. To get this together. And Colin Powell, he had his doctrine of you have the American people behind you. You use overwhelming force. And unfortunately, you have to, I mean, maybe not do a genocide or something like that, but you do have to go in at all and get a victory. And the Persian, maybe it was just a fluke, but the Persian Gulf War, plus George Herbert Walker Bush had worked with all these allies, and he got all this international help and all of this international cooperation. So, I mean, we did it pretty much somewhat our own course. He did reach out to the world, and he did kind of sell it to the world.
So, John, I got a question for you. The one part I didn't hear, John, is did you say American troops on the ground?
Now, I think what's going to happen is I think Iran is going to cut a deal. They're talking 5 years, no nuclear weapons. I don't know how they were talking at one point of they have to agree to 20 years, but I'm not sure how current administrations can agree for the future because 20 years, different Democratic and Republican administrations are going to be in, and the world will be different. But how can you make a deal for 20 years, even though you could make a thing where they have to agree to checks on the country or something?
I mean, treaties. Yeah, we have treaties that last much longer than the one administration's term. So I don't think we have to, like SALT, for instance, with the Soviet Union. And you brought up Colin Powell, who is my adult idol. My child idol is Joe Namath, and my adult idol is Colin Powell, who's a great American, fantastic leader. And because we have such a great system here, the president really doesn't necessarily know a lot about the military unless they served in the military. They are civilians. Colin Powell, I can guarantee you, put most of that together. So he has to get. So of course the president signs off on it in the long run. But Colin Powell is the genius behind everything that happened. And the reason why we didn't go into Iraq the first time and we let them run back is because Powell told Bush, "Don't do it. It'll be a bloodbath." And oh boy, was he right.